Dwi'n recordio hwn, felly, ni? Okay. Iawn, na ddechrau efo'r datganiad.
So can we start with the statement? This meeting is being broadcast and it will be available online later on. If you're not happy with this, leave the meeting now. Thank you. Before the chair comes in, I will just say a little word. We have technical problems. The normal system we have is down, and so we are working with one laptop. So it'll be a different experience to what we usually have, and so it'll take more time for people to speak. We'll have to move the one computer that's working, and whoever's watching us will have to be patient. Thank you. Thank you very much. And for any member of the committee or the authority, if there are any problems, let you know. We want to be fair to everybody so everyone can hear and we can work. So to start, welcome to all of you to the meeting of the Eryri National Park Authority. And are there any apologies? Councillor Anwen Hughes. Thank you very much. And it's good to be with us. We'll see later. So in the absence of the chair and the vice chair, I have a few things to say to you in terms of training for the members. I hope that you have all been working on the cyber training, that you haven't been. Also, there are 3 new modules coming in the new year. System Elms. If you can tick that you can do that, then it can be a bit difficult, but it's very important to do so as members to ensure that we are aware of this and also keep the date. Even if you have done this last year or the previous year, things do change, so it's important to keep up with this. In terms of what has been happening, on the 25th of September, we launched the Sustainable Economic Plan for Gwynedd and the park in the Plas. It's very important and a lot of good work's being done, and looking forward to that and time to come. Also from that, we had on the last day of October, we had a working group with Terry Stevens on working a bit further on how the scheme would operate. Then we had a chairs forum in the lakes and on climate change, and we heard we'll hear a bit about what comes out later on today in a paper on net zero and the path to zero. That'll be very interesting and have a chance to hear about that. More recently, I met the National Parks Partnership in the Lake Peak District, and I went to the AGM then, and more recently, the AGM where Kat Porchin was appointed as chair once again. This is very good because Kat does extremely good work. The 14th of November, there's a working group meeting in November to discuss how things are going. And what I understand, Kim is standing down as a member of the authority. And we thank you very much for the work, and good luck with the new baby. Thank you. And the last thing I want to say is just to sympathise with 2 members of staff, John Colley, has lost his father recently. We sympathise with you, John. And also Beth Ann Hughes has lost a partner recently. So if we can take 30 seconds as a sign of respect. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. The next item that we have is Emma's update. Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you. So there's a different experience. So very briefly, Ethan and I met with Audit Wales doing a scrutiny work in the last month, and the report on the governance of the park. So we can scrutinise that, and they have confirmed that 23-24, which again has not yet started on equality and diversity, so members are being drawn in to their work in that area. The three chief executives met with Welsh Government officers on Friday to go through financial matters, but there's nothing they've told us that is causing us concern. So we're preparing a podcast on the landscapes of Wales and climate change matters. So remember, we received a report from Smiley Consultancy on the implications. So that podcast will go out in the Welsh Government's climate change week. And just to finish, we appointed two officers. Ewan Dillon has been appointed as head of communications engagement, and Angela Jones as head of partnerships. Thank you very much. So if you pass the laptop back. Right. So do we have any questions from the public and web? No, nothing on that. So I think all the time there have been, I've never had a question. So be careful what I ask for. So declaration of interest. Is anybody declaring an interest in any of the items? No, thank you very much. So we move on to the minutes. We want to check that they are accurate to start with, and then it will go through them page by page. Page 1, 2, 3, 4. Everyone happy that I can sign them as correct? So we then have matters arising from the minutes. Do you want to? Can I just the package and raising? We have a report on this matter. Has anyone else has anything else they want to raise from the minutes of the last meeting? Thank you very much. Someone to second. Thank you very much. So we'll accept that they're correct. Anything rising from them? Anything wants to arise, Sian Owain? If then we'll move on to the action log. We have the first one, which is proposed to take it out, and then the second one. The second one there'll be a review on the next. So we propose that this remains here on the sheet for the time being. Is everyone happy with that? So thank you very much. And then we'll continue with that. Next item we have is the Race to Zero, a report by the Chief Executive. Yes, so if I can speaking, can you hear me? Right. So the two of them were in a meeting of the chairs of the parks, and the main point of trusting was Race to Zero. So I'll go through detail, but you remember last year we received a report from Dmitry and raising these matters, and the authority to as putting carbon in place. The conclusion of that work was that the park is so big, the work is confirmed the nature of the challenge, and outside the authority. So the family of parks has looked at the path to zero, and broadly what is the Race to Zero is the 5 aspects of it. It is the leadership role. In fact, that I have a few slides to show you in a minute. 11 parks have already signed up to it, and they making a promise to Race to Zero. And then number 4 there, action 4, I've given an update of what the authorities do. So broadly, what it means is to have plans to move to zero practically. We take part in getting key messages out, and then there's leaders in the field to adapt our strategic plans to acknowledge that the area is responding to zero carbon. As an organization, we control our own carbon emissions in the office and so on. So this is the area. I'll try to give you a bit of such a complicated field. Right, can you see that? Right. Right. I'll just show you the nature of the thing. So I'll show slides in English, but I'll be speaking in Welsh. So what we found out, the challenge, this very small country, but huge differences in the landscapes, and with 5 challenges been identifying, such as energy that we use, the producing food and agriculture. I'm sure that we make the best here of our peatlands, woodlands. Well, we are sensitive to Wales is how we engage with the tourism sector and in this area. and over a third of the carbon emissions come from this industry, and then the education role, if you like, reducing carbon. We, by the way, have commissioned a unit in the park to do ways of doing this. On carbon. In this slide, we show what the carbon footprint in the dark color, and if everything goes well, then what will the impact be on the area by 2050 in the light blue? So we go from producing a lot of carbon to not much carbon. And then this shows different levels of being carbon neutrals. And as you can see, if everything goes well, Eryri will be carbon neutral by 2032. And then this is a figure where you can see it shows what the impact is at the moment of the sectors. So just the land sector, you see different energy, food and drink is the dark blue and the light blue. And it's a lot of our footprint in this area. And then after all this, after this work, this is where the net carbon footprint of Eryri will be, and the sectors that produce carbon, and the land and measures of energy, green energy, more carbon. So that's the broad picture. So I'll take the slides down then. So it's quite higher. It's something we need to work consistently towards. And as leaders, we must lead the company. And the recommendation is that we join the Race to Zero and that we use the principles involved to review our statutory plans. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So any comments, anything that people want to say on the paper in front of us? Thank you. Can you wait? We'll pass the laptop round. Right. So thank you very much. I welcome this very much. It's something I think as leaders at a high level, and it's something that definitely we can see and to commit to, not just commit to, but also we will communicate on it too and act on it. Just a question I have. Our housing stock in Wales is the oldest in Wales, in Europe. We have a lot of old houses. This is a challenge to retrofit our present houses to be carbon neutral. How are we going to work on this? How is this going to affect the development plan and our work in the park? Yes, that's one question. And of course, this leads to another question. What impact it has on our in changing any plans? Thank you. Yes, definitely. There are two statutory plans with the park. We have the management plan, the Eryri plan, and the local development plan. And these are crucial in terms of our priorities in the field of carbon and what Emyr has just been referring to. As you know, the review of the LDP is likely to start next year, and we can discuss the timetable in the next planning committee. But that is the point where we will set targets and aims and the strategy within the LDP. The Carbon Members Group, Brian chairs that. This group has talked about the importance of the LDP in this too, and for stemming from this, we've had an initial discussion with Lou Thompson, who can't be here today, just to put us, she's given a certain amount of work in the university where she works, and we've had initial discussions there. So it's up to us as an authority to be how ambitious do we want to be. I hope we can be ambitious in this area. The challenges are big, but the discussions will take place in the next year, and we will, when we start to review the plan.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I think I would support much of what was just said, actually, but in terms of the document before us and the associated recommendations, I think it's essential that we sign up for the Race to Zero. It would look very strange if we didn't. And the recommendations as they stand are fine, but the question lies behind the fact that obviously the statutory plans are going to take some time to put into place, and they won't be in place until very near to 2032. Therefore, I think our recommendation should reflect that, and that we should have something in there that reflects the interim period to show that there are outcomes and things that we are doing before those plans put in place. At the moment, it's saying we're going to reflect those principles. We can see the outcomes of that and the policies that are there. Clearly, we're doing things now, but we need to accelerate some of those or spread them in a wider way, things that we've already started on. So the sustainable tourism thing, bearing in mind what was just said about the contribution that tourism makes to our carbon, you know, maybe we should be saying here that we want to accelerate some of the processes that we've already started and to start new ones insofar as they fit within the plans that we have at the moment. I don't know what the form of words would be, but I think we need to reflect that in the recommendation.
I don't want to put too robust things in there, because what we want to do is to agree on the journey, and Brian has talked about sustainable tourism, and this work will proceed. The other piece of work that we got money recently to sustainable places to do work on, give advice on the old housing stock that John leads to that. So things like this count. And also we are a member of the Gwynedd and Morn Local Services Board, and the carbon is part of the work of this. So I agree we need to communicate earlier, but I didn't know how to describe this in this report at the moment. But if we start on the journey, then more information will come in. Thank you, Emir. John? Yes, thank you very much. And I agree 100%. And that we should join the race to net zero. We need to have the LDP. There'll be no chance to reach that to start with, and also is money coming to help the in net zero, and also is there a hope that businesses things are moving so quickly now, and we're going to trial a lot of things in the park in this area. Well, we had to receive the role of being leaders, and there's room to work on that, see what's happening. Does anybody else? Yes. On the local development plan, this is going to take 5 years to be in place. Well, we'll be behind what we started. So what's the priority? do you want to? I think as members, you have a paper. As you know, we were supposed to start reviewing this plan in last month in October, and following what has arisen with Article 4, then it will follow in the December meeting because of staffing capacity. This is discussions that you can have in the planning committee in December, the initial one, and we're working around a year, I think, on the local development plan if things go. It's a decision for you as members in the end, and the meeting will be next month. Thank you, John, and definitely a lot of things are being risen now relate to resources, and this will be raised with the minister when Emir and the chair meet later on this month. And Edgar, just move the laptop. Can you hear me now? Yes, fine. So the journey starts, and we sign up to this and propose that we do, as John says, that it will take time and it will need resources and staff. And I propose the recommendations. Thank you very much. So we've had a proposal. If somebody else wants to contribute, Elwyn. I'm seconding the proposal, Mr. Chairman. Thank you much. So we've had a proposal and a seconder. Everybody happy? I don't think that anyone is against. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that's carried. So we have had agreement that we will sign up to these, and clearly resources are a factor, and we will have to have internal discussions. And thank you very much to everybody for that. So can we move on? Next thing we have is the annual report, the draft annual report on the Independent Remuneration Panel for Wales. Sorry, I've just got the English version in front of me. So who's leading on this? Ewan? Yes. So the format will be familiar to you, and every year the authority, it depends, you need to consider. So this is a draft report, and you have an opportunity to respond as an authority or as individual members. And the decision of the panel this year is to effectively the date, the salaries, and the recommendation is that the basic salary goes by 6%, and then on paragraph 2.2 of the report, what this means in terms of the salaries for the members of the ordinary members will go from 4,964 to 5,265, and the senior salary of the chair will go up from 13,764 to 14,598, and then the salary of deputy chair and the chairs of the committees will go up from 8,704 to 9,005, and the other main changes are or lack of changes. The travel costs will stay the same, and then as far as the standards committees in question, the allowances remain the same, but there's a further option for the hourly rate if there's a small meeting of the meeting. Practically, I don't see this makes a lot of difference, the way that we operate in terms of the authority. And then as last time, that there's a questionnaire from the panel, and last time you had a response from all of you as the authority. But looking, the questionnaire is on page 70, and looking at it this year, I think the question more for you as individual members, can I suggest that the response comes as one voice from the authority, and that you respond individually how you feel. And the recommendation is to discuss the draft annual report and decide on the response of the authority. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Change of translator.
I've been on Gwynedd Council for over 7 years. What people said before was that you make up your own salary. This is an independent panel, and I can't see that it needs to be discussed, to be honest, because it's independent. It doesn't get any better than this. And I think we should go along with the recommendation. If anybody wants to contribute or any points that anybody wants to make in relation to this, members of the authority. I don't think there are. Can I just ask the question? The set of questions at the back, are they available on the website? Because I can't see how we would discuss, well, this further without posting these. Perhaps Anwen can provide you with a link. I think the report would be a part of that. You do have a space at the back as well, I believe, where you can include the comments. There is a link there, in fact. So with that document, you can either go on the website or email. So if people feel that they do want to respond, we'd be very grateful if you could do. Are we going to send the link to members in-house? Yes. Okay, so if everybody's happy. We've had a proposal not to respond formally from Edgar. Elwyn, were you just going to agree? You can see your hand up there. Yes. Okay, thank you. Lost the sound for a bit. Anybody in favour? Anybody against? Thank you very much. Next item is the authority's risk profile. Once again, Iwan. Yes, thanks, Chair. Once again, this format is familiar to you. This is the annual report that is presented before the authority. You get a report on the actual progress in the Performance and Resources Committee. And that every time that PNR committee meets, this is a little bit different in the sense that the table under 112 shows the differences there or changes between the PNR meeting and paragraph 1.5 up to 1.11. Those outline the changes that have occurred on an annual basis. It's a little bit different to what is presented to the PNR committee, but the principles are the same. There are 3 risk categories: high, medium and low risk categories. And as noted in 1.2, it is the requirement that we present this to the authority meeting at least every 12 months. It also goes to the PNR committee. As you can see in paragraph 1.5, there are 17 identified risks that have been recognized on the profile. Of these, 2 are classed as high risk, 14 as medium, and 1 as low risk. During the last 12 months, no new risks were identified for inclusion on the authority's risk register. In March of 2023, we increased the risk level for achieving the income generating targets for PLAS from medium to high, and we reduced the risk related to the Celtic Rainforest project from high to medium. And in July, we lowered the risk for the Yscon failing to generate sufficient income from high to medium, and we have removed 1 risk from the authority's risk register, which is the effect of COVID-19 on the national park and the authority's work. But that is subjective. Of course, you have to make a formal decision on that, because it is the authority who have the final decision. So the recommendation is to note the content of this report and to formally approve the removal of the effect of COVID-19 on the national park and on the authority's work from the authority's risk register. On page 70 onwards, we of course have the appendix that lists the risks in much greater detail than I referred to in my presentation, but it's there for information, and if there are any questions in relation to these, I have added, I will draw your attention to 16. In the last PNR meeting, Tim referred to the fact that there was a risk to the reputation of the authority as a result of PLAS Tenable, and that's included on the risk register. Can I just add, I did discuss this before the meeting with Emir, and I raised the fact that I was a bit concerned that there is all of the risks had no change, but I now understand that the risks are managed and dealt with in the PNR committee. And this is just an annual statement in relation to where we're at on the risks. So it's a bit different to what I initially thought it was myself. And as you can see, one has said that things have changed, the level of risk has been changed, and the removal of the COVID-19 risk. So it understands me to understand it, and it also helps you to understand that it's not quite what you think when you look at it initially. Brian, Louise, and anybody else have any questions? Brian, first of all, thank you. And Jules also has her hand up.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for that explanation. Even though this is a statement of where we are, I think the measures and actions perhaps don't quite reflect some of where we're at. I mean, if we take the question of item 2 and item 16 to do with PLAS Tenable, that also gets a mention on page 139 in the minutes of the PNR. And we had a meeting some year or 18 months ago when we went through what we want to do about PLAS Tenable in some degree. And I'm wondering whether there should be some reflection there when we are going to review PLAS Tenable as an authority again. I know we have the PLAS Tenable board, but bearing in mind the effect of PLAS Tenable in relation to the other high risk, which is number 1, which is the challenge on funding, I think we should be reflecting in the measures and actions more accurately about how the authority is doing that and when it's likely to come back to the board for further review. And secondly, in relation to item 1, the insufficient core funding, again, I don't think the comments at the moment reflect that accurately. We discussed at the last P&R the audit report, and the audit report outcome was very much to do with the diversification of income and the fact that the National Park should be developing a strategy for that. And I think that should be reflected also in the measures and actions to manage the risk, with some indication of when that strategy is likely to be worked through. Because otherwise it looks as though we're just accepting where we're at without the actions being firm enough in terms of what we've already discussed about how we're addressing those risks.
Yeah, y mater o'r Plas Tân y Bwlch.
So first of all, in relation to Plas Tân y Bwlch, the report on raising income by Audit Wales, that will be amended towards the end of the year, and we need to couple that with the purposes of the National Park. We did have discussions in the Plas board orally last time, and a lot more questions were raised, and so a written report will be gone to the Plas board this afternoon, and we'll see how the discussion goes this afternoon. If I can just come in there, the intention is that the board will prepare recommendations, and a further report will be coming to a working group and to a committee following that. So there are activities happening.
In the risk profile, those activities are there in the pipeline. Possibly some time scale about when those activities will begin to bear fruit.
Yr unig beth ychwanegu fan'na ydi.
So the only thing to add to that is it's been difficult to get a hold of quite a lot of the information required. I think what's happened here is the report was prepared before the full information was in written form, but I'll definitely add the changes. In relation to the second matter about raising income, we did have an individual report, and Audit Wales undertook a joint audit with the 3 parks and presented it to Welsh Government. There are several recommendations that have been put in front of Welsh Government, asking them for guidance to all intents and purposes, the level of risks that is acceptable, what supports the national parks need in order to go on that journey. And so you will have a report in 2 weeks' time reporting that we're holding back on this piece of work until we get guidance from Welsh Government. If I can just put in my other hat on now as chair of the Plas Tân y Bwlch board, I do think it's we need to come to a conclusion on this. There has been a lot of work on gathering information, and there will be a paper from Emyr on the options, and I certainly want to get something else out. I don't want this to drag any further. It is a problem, and we need to move things forward and progress things, and there's a lot of feeling involved with that, but we have to make a decision on this. Louise, next.
Yes, thank you. It's just a query, actually, page 89. It talks about Llyn Bach, Llyn y Tri Greuenyn. It says, though little of the lake is now left. I've got no idea where this is. How's the car park by the lake?
I think you've got the wrong item, Louise.
Huh? What? What's the problem?
I think that...
Can everybody hear me? No.
Can hear you, Louise, but not
I
the
can
room.
hear you, but we can't.
Oh,
Can't hear the
Oh
room at the
dear.
minute.
No, we can't hear the room right now.
oh well, never mind. It wasn't that important.
What T1 said was, that, yeah, we're not on that item yet.
Oh, see, I thought we were on.
We're on
Right,
item
sorry,
10,
getting ahead of
authority risk
myself.
profile,
Sorry.
but we can't hear the room at the
No, I've
moment.
just put a message on the chat.
Oh, thank you.
Yn y siambar, dyn ni'n clywed dim byd.
Sorry, nath mute, nath Zoom. Louise,
Yes.
o'r ddechrau eto, please.
If you could start again, please.
Okay. Am I on the wrong item? What? I'm not entirely sure where we are because my sound is going in and out and it's all over the place actually. It was just a question really as to where Llyn Bach is. Llyn y Tri Greyennin.
I bod yn holl onest, mae Llyn Bach yn y papur nesa.
Right.
Llyn Bach is referred to in the next paper.
Okay.
We're talking about the risks at the moment.
Right.
We'll come
I'll leave
to
it for
the
now then.
lake names in a bit. Joe?
Thank you.
Yeah, I've removed my hand. My question was covered by Brian, but just to make sure that that the report on Plas Tanabl comes back through the authority would be great. Thank you.
Fydd o sicr yn, diolch yn fawr.
Diolch.
Mae John eisiau gwneud rhywbeth yn fawr.
Jyst eisiau rhaid diweddaredd sydyn i'r aelodau ar
I
risg.
just wanted to give you a quick update on number 15. I mentioned there about the planning fees. For your information, a letter has gone out from the Senior Planning Officers Society Group Wales. I think it's going out this week. It will be signed by all of the senior officers and myself and Delwyn from this authority, asking to increase the planning fees, and this will be going to Jim Jenks towards the end of the week. I've already spoken to Elwyn about it. Thank you, John. Can I just ask a question in relation to what John was saying? Where are we at the moment in relation to fees? Does it cover all of the costs? No, it doesn't. In relation to development control in this, or development management, it covers about 20% of the costs, approximately. So not by a long shot, doesn't cover the costs. Oh, we really need that change then. Yes, we do. Thank you very much. So we've noted the report and we're having a discussion here. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add on the risks? Can I just also note that we need to update items 1, 2, and 16 in relation to Plas Tanabl as part of the risk register. And the other thing is to remove the risk in relation to COVID-19. Is everyone in agreement with that? Can we have a show of hands, please? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. I take it from the vote that everybody is in favour in any case, nobody against. Okay, thank you for that. Interesting discussion. So the next item that we have, in which Louise mentioned as well, Eryri Lake names. Part of cultural heritage. This is a bit like a pass the parcel party in a way because of the situation. Anyway, so this paper refers to the work that we've been undertaking over the past 2 to 3 years on standardizing the Eryri Lake names. It's a pilot project with the Welsh Language Commissioner, and it's is as a result of the working group that was held a couple of years ago. Those of you who were members back then, the late Aled Roberts, the former Welsh Language Commissioner, was present, and you got a report on the topographical features in Eryri as well, and a lot of work has been undertaken on it since then. So we decided to work on a pilot project to look at the topographical features in the national park. The Welsh Language Commissioner has a statutory role to standardise the cities, towns, etc. But for the first time, they ventured into geographical, topographical elements. We started with a list of Eryri lake names, and you can see the full list in the appendix. There are over 200 of them, so there are a lot of names, and there has been a lot of research and a lot of detailed research has been undertaken. There are lots of interesting examples included in the list, and some examples which may be more debatable, shall we say. So about 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting with the members that are a part of the scrutinizing group, Councillor Elwyn Edwards, June Jones, and we had an opportunity to scrutinize the names individually, which was a very interesting discussion in itself. There are variations locally, and that's an important part of how place names are standardized by the standardization panel, and they often reflect the local dialects and the local use of the names. And as explained in the presentation about the appendix, these local ways of saying these names and how they're used locally are a really important part of the standardization process. What's brilliant to see it as well are the variations and the way that they reflect the flexibility of the Welsh language here in Eryri, and that's one of the special qualities of Eryri according to Cynllun Eryri. The standardization panel has undertaken the work according to their standards and their principles for standardization, and I'll refer to one or two of those in a moment. But I do feel it's important to recognize as well that community work has been undertaken in the communities on this work. And the area wardens of the authority have also been a part of the process, and they have confirmed the main uses and names that used on a community level. We intend to move to the next group of names following today's meeting, and the names of waterfalls in Eryri, before we move on, hopefully, to the summit names. So this work will be very extensive. It has to be very detailed work, and so the whole process, to be honest, is going to take years to complete. But it really is worthwhile, and it started a year ago with a decision that the authority made to use Wyddfa and Eryri in every language. So if we can turn quickly to the appendix of over 200 names, you will see that the standardization panel refers to more than one example in some examples. For example, Llyn Tegid. Llyn Tegid, of course, is called Llyn Tegid only by this authority, and that's what happened forever. Anyway, but there is a difference between what the standardization panel and the recommendation and the use that will be made of the names that this this authority will actually undertake. And that's recognised in page 2 of the appendix, where it states that there may be tension sometimes between the wanting to promote the Welsh place names. The list refers to different categories of English names. Some are recent translations, for example, and others are very common. The list looks at the categories and how we can deal with them. My suggestion is that the authority has already undertaken and made the decision on Eryri and the Wyddfa, and that sets the precedent in the way that we deal with place names, and so the Welsh names would be the ones that would be used, unless there would be an exceptional case that arose to decide differently, but I can't foresee that happening with this group. But of course, it's up to you as members to discuss. As a result of the discussion of the scrutiny panel, in the appendix on page 1, there is a link included there for the guidelines for standardization, and those guidelines refer specifically to dialects and the role that dialects in relation to place names. So they do consider, the standardization panel does consider dialects and community use. And there's a section as well in the principles which refers to the why that's before place names. So if you want me to refer to one specifically, I will do. But that's the background, and that's the work that's been undertaken. And thank you for discussing it. Can I just add? Personally, I think this is a very important park for the national park. The importance in relation to the heritage and the culture of the national park is very important, and I'm very supportive of the work that's being done here and that it should be carried on further. It helps us ensure how special Eryri is and how important the Welsh language and culture is in this area. So please carry on with your good work, Naomi. Can I just say 2 things? We need to look at the names that we have in the report, and we need to deputize this work to the group, the steering group for place names. We have a subgroup of the authority that's working on this. So we need to pass on that good work to them, and we'll get an annual report from them on the work undertaken. So before we make those decisions, I'll open it up to discussion. Louise, first of all, then Elwyn, then Brian. Louise, thank you.
Lovely, thank you. I get to ask my question now. The lake they're referring to on page 89, Llyn Bach, Llyn y Tri Greunin, which apparently is by the car park, which is sometimes called the Mathluk car park. Is there a lake there? Well, I didn't know there was a lake there. Or maybe a large puddle. The other thing is just a little comment about the Talallyn Lake. It's used, I mean, the report states it's used colloquially by everyone locally. It's referred to as Talallyn. So, and I do agree that we have to, maintain the historical and cultural integrity of the national park. That's what it's all about. But presumably all of this will involve changing road signs. So what cost would this be and who's going to pay for it?
Na di ateb hwnna. Rhywbeth da ni'n ystyried yma ydi...
I'll try to respond to that. What we're referring to there is the use that this authority, or which name this authority uses for the lake. It's a matter for Gwynedd Council, Conwy Council, and NRW if they want to adopt the same name.
Oh.
We're referring to the name of the lake specifically. Talys Llyn is a valid name for the valley, but the name of the lake is specifically is what we're referring to here. And the name of the lake at the moment is not on road signs. Does this answer your question, Louise?
Not really. I mean, the road signs just say Talys Llyn. You know, we locally we talk about the Talys Llyn Pass, you know, from the top of the pass down to the lake, what some people refer to as the Mach Loop. I mean, I think we should maybe take advantage of the fact that people come from all over the world, actually. I've met Americans there who come to see the Mach Loop. And if you've not been, any of you, it's totally exhilarating when you're up on the top and you get the jets flying below. You can see the whites of their eyes. But that's just my opinion. I do appreciate that some people might not feel the same way as I do. Sometimes it's absolute chaos up at the top, but I suppose, again, that's Gwynedd Council's highways department need to sort it out because it can get quite dangerous. But sort of answered it. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, mae Talys Llyn yn enw priodol.
Talys Llyn is an appropriate name. Thank you very much, Louise. I think that, as we said, the road names relate to the local council. Elwyn, thank you, Chair. Yes, to answer Louise's question, Llyn Brianin, there was a lake there. There are 3 large rocks there, and the legend is that these were the shoes of Idris Fawr. The rocks were thrown out from the shoes to this place, Talys Llyn here, and that is Llyn Tregearn. But then they changed the road, they widened the road, and the lake dried up. That's certainly what happened there. Coming back to Llyn Tegid is the name the park has decided 15 years or more that the name of the place is Llyn Tegid and not Llyn Tegid Bala Lake. What happened, or what's happened recently, is that local people start calling Llyn Tegid Llyn Bala, translation of Bala Lake. So it's already been decided this should be Llyn Tegid only. It's started from there. And I strongly advise that we just stick to Llyn Tegid there at the start. Nothing was done, but now it has been done years ago. And Llyn Tegid, and we should stick to that. The question asked now, why isn't Llyn Celyn here? Is there any reason? That's interesting. I hadn't noticed that this lake wasn't there. I'll raise the matter. Oh, because it's a reservoir, Emyr, and not a lake. But I will check if we need to bring this in. Llyn Arenig is also a reservoir for Bala and Penllyn. Anyway, it's just a question. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to thank yourself for the comments that you made earlier. I would wholeheartedly support those. The importance of getting the names in a way sort of secure as far as the way that we use them, and in hopefully our discussions with others going forward, particularly with those who design the maps, is going to be absolutely crucial going forward, that things are standardized in relation to that, otherwise confusion starts to reign. I think it's been very encouraging from where I am to see in the national press how Eryri is now the predominant name, and sometimes the former name is not even referred to in mainstream national articles. And I'm talking about UK national in this context. So I support this wholeheartedly. In terms of the fine detail, I'll leave it up to those who've done the studying and the expert knowledge. Thank you.
I don't know what to hear. Am I going to John?
I have John. Can I just say first to Elwyn that driving back to Aberystwyth, that are thinking about the shoe of Idris about that from now on. Thank you very much for that. Certainly, John, you have a question. Yes, thank you very much. And you said it's important that we do. And we go that the relationship and the Welsh name alone is should be adopted for these lakes. Perhaps this will be a help, and I'm very pleased that this British thing, everybody now uses Eryri and Rwyddfa, and at least no longer the Snowdonia National Park. I'm very pleased about that, and this could go with Eryri National Park. This is an update on that. So, John, legally, we have two names, and there is in the Senedd, there's to review the national parks, and we've put the note down legally to make it a bid to just use the Welsh name Eryri in both Welsh and English. Thank you very much. So I'll pass to Naomi and then to Edgar. So question about setting up signs, John. This has been raised by the group. Elwyn has mentioned that he was keen to see things happen, and Rhys Gwyn has contacted today us about this. So intend to have a discussion with Jonathan about the planning situation, and then we can have a sign, plan for signs. Thank you. Thank you, Naomi. Edgar, thank you very much. Yes, I was here when the Commissioner Alwyn Roberts on the park at that time, and we started to have the committee together to look at this matter with the Welsh names, and it happened to go back to Cyngor Gwynedd. It happened with language, housing, and so on. Cyngor Gwynedd has led on this, and other councils in Wales are following, and I am pleased to see Eryri leading on this, and I hope that the other parks in Wales will follow us. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. June. Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you to the Eryri Partnership for leading on this. It is pioneering work, and the committee has looked at it, and this is far-reaching, isn't it? Things are going to change once it's out there and acknowledged. Nothing happens now with Eryri. Everything that used to be Snowdon this, Snowdon that, and it has changed, and it is changing, and it is making a huge difference. And just thank you for the team in the parks been leading on this, and also the standardising committee. I've learned a lot of Welsh names, and the Councillor Elwyn, of course, and I'm totally happy to propose the recommendations. So we have a proposal from June. Edgar, yes, I'm seconding. So it's proposed and second to accept the recommendations. Elfed, sorry. Just one little comment about Llyn-gellig-Gai, and it used to be called Llyn-Ciggen. I see this in the notes. It's been noted.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Naomi. We noticed that Llyn Llydain is traditional name. As this name, there's a list of different names that are being used in the community. Okay. So we'll add this. Excellent work. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I know that this keeps people fit, but it's not something that I want to see as a practice in the authority. So we have had a proposal and a seconder to accept the list of names. Is everybody happy with this? Totally happy. And I think that we're dealing with a situation that Elwyn's mentioned in Llyn Tegid as Llyn Tegid and not Llyn Balaf. Now, everyone is happy with that. So thank you very much. Very interesting discussion. The last thing I've had is if everybody happy that this should go to the committee from year and year in the annual report. Yes, just want to check. I think that everyone is happy. Thank you very much. Very interesting discussion. The next thing that we have is the working group report. Who's going to do this? Lead on this. You're doing this. So I find the paper. Page 136. So is everybody, I've chosen this chair. Is everyone happy, or are there any questions from the working group? Everyone happy? Do we have to have somebody to pass this, or just to note it? To note it. Note it for discussion. So no comments on it. So move on to the next. We have meetings with other organizations. Anyone has anything want to mention? Anyone met other people? No? Okay. The next, we have minutes of the Performance and Resources Committee held on the 12th of July. Do we want to, this is for sharing, disseminating information, anything, want to, anything coming from this, Elfed? So it's reported additional to, is there anything you want to add that's not in the minutes? Is there anything else anyone wants to arise? No, if not, we'll move on to the Standards Committee. So unless any questions arising from the minutes. Any questions about the Standards Committee? No. If not, we will move on to the Europark conference. Emily will have a short presentation on this. I was good this time of the year. It's difficult to be there. So there's a price to be paid for not being there. So I'll introduce it all. So I have a presentation. So we met in the Netherlands. Here we are. We met in the Netherlands, and name of the place was Leeuwarden in the north, and it was a tribute to the landscape of 50 years and the nature, where nature and people meet in harmony. And the first time we met, and for the first time ever, I felt that culture in the past it hadn't been related, but I saw this as a fundamental thing. So this is where we met, and it was great to meet in the World Trade Center, and see the size of the World Trade Center here. And here we are. Is Ivor, confirmed that Ivor was there. So it's over 150 delegates. Louise says that her audio isn't working properly. Is this better, Louise? Here we are. Can everybody else hear? Yes. So thumbs up or thumbs down if you can't. So 350 delegates here, and there was a youth committee here who effectively ran everything, working parties, working groups, external meetings too. Very interestingly, the president of the local park opened the conference by saying God created and man created the Netherlands, and because this is quite sensitive, and so because the level of the sea. What struck me following the report, how many national parks in Europe. I knew quite a few of them. So they'd heard of the Harari Park, so they changed the name. So the message has gone through. And there's one session on solving disagreements between parks and communities. It's quite interesting talking about the West, and even in the Arctic Circle in Norway, the most important thing is trust. Trust in the park authority and the communities. And one person's part of this, the Sami people, because 400 years of fish in these specific communities. So it is important that the parks, national parks, respect the indigenous people living there. And this just is a shot. If you look at the screenshot, saying how important nature is, and culture, nature's culture, and nature for society. So, field trip, I'll say a bit more about this since Ivor isn't there. I took the opportunity to go to the Wattensee Island, and this a chain of islands. It's quite unique, and this was the traditional style. That is a tiles roof with straw on top, with thatch on top, and every agricultural building was like this: the back to the wind and the open facade. And this Edward was talking with us. He spoke Dutch and the local language, and he started by making a speech talking about when you go on the web, the internet, and you see the word Texel, you think about sheep. Well, we do. But he said, if you're on the internet and put text in, then the sheep that I have they can cope with CAP. We take the sheep back. So they're are meat, sheep, and milk sheep, and they make cheese and have a vending machine selling the cheese. And here is the cheese. And the sea, the land is inundated, and so they keep the sea out. And what struck one, it shows a church in the village, and he said 400 years ago, this was 7 kilometers inshore. So the landscape of the islands has changed. It's interesting too. So 13,000 people live there. They come in the summer. 1 million people from the west of the island is all second homes, and they own the land. And perhaps as John Pugh is here, farmers are to blame. The night stress problem is terrible on the Texel Island, and research is done. And it's that the farmers creating the night stress, and so it was. So we could see part of the land, and it was farmed, and they're trying to recreate the peat lands, and to recreate the peats. It's not here to answer any questions, but here is a picture of us. So it's changing, and this is 4 meters below sea level. Then he said, I want to have some cheese to take home. So we had to go. And one evening, when there's nothing on in the center, and so Ivo took his guitar out and started to play a few songs in the Netherlands. So thank you very much for the opportunity to go there, and enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Emma. Any questions anyone wants to ask to Emir? The cheese has come back, and no. So can I, with Brian, and indeed could tell people that it's a unique experience meeting people from different places in Europe, and as an experience and your learning experience, the problem is similar, but they're different but similar wherever you go in Europe. And I had a discussion with someone from the Samis, and you're changing, if you put a fox instead of a wolf, then you could be talking, and a cow for elk for sheep, then you could be talking with a farmer in Wales. So things are different, but similar. So thank you very much for that. We'll move on. We have some things we want to start on. That's quite complicated, but Yuan will explain. So thank you very much. Yuan, over to you. Everyone can see it's quite complicated. It's quite complicated. In fact, it's quite simple. The exemption of information. So can I close out the press and the public? The reasons have been given for the exemptions. And the information might be revealed to the individual. So is everyone willing with this? Anybody opposes this matter? Can anyone state if they put your hand up, please? Anybody against? No. Okay. So before we go on to the next item, Gito, we will need to bring the live stream to an end because it's an accepted item. I'm not sure what happens with the recording. No, we stop the recording too. So we